Hi YouTube, it's Shaneli here. In this video, I'm going to be going over the top financial tips and advice that I have for college graduates who are fresh out of school or young working professionals. This really could go for either or. It's April, which means it's Financial Literacy Month, and right now there's a lot of resources online, which is awesome, but we're only 1 month away from May, which means that, in less than a month and just a few weeks, we're going to have a lot of college seniors graduating and coming into the real world. So that means that, a lot of people are going to be experiencing new things for the first time with a new job, having more money. And it's really important to put these resources out there and to be realistic and relatable about, what you can actually do, strategies that can actually help you and that are realistic and would work for you to save money because let's be real, hashtag student loans. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now. Take a few minutes to go click around on my Facebook and Instagram profile. Follow me on social media. You can find me on there and comment and engage with me. I definitely like to connect with everybody who comes over and finds me on YouTube, on other social media platforms as well. And yeah, now I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the video. The first one is really important because most advice that you'll see online actually says to save money right out of college by moving in with your parents if you can. And actually my advice is kind of the opposite of that. And not that this is like a rule, like none of these things are rules. I want to start by saying that literally this is not a list of rules. This is just things to consider when you're making decisions fresh out of college or like a couple years right out of college. If you're struggling to pay down your student loan debt or credit card debt and trying to figure things out, these are probably things that you want to think more closely about while you're making your plan for the next few months or years. So yeah, this first one is pretty different from what most people will say online. Do not just go straight back into moving with your parents without really thinking things through, because there's a couple things that could happen. I know from personal experience that if you move back home, you don't really have the full independence that you had when you were in college. So like socially, it's kind of like an awkward shift for you and you're craving a lot of more independence and freedom, and you don't really have it all the way necessarily. And so it's kind of important for you to really establish barriers around what is going to be realistic for me. If I move back in with my parents, what is my life going to look like? And maybe that means you just need to have a conversation with your parents, because they might have one expectation of what it's going to be like when you're back home from college, and then in your mind you have this other expectation. So it's important for you to get on the same page with your parents. I did not talk to my parents about moving back in. I just came back, and then I quickly realized that things were expected of me that I was like, I'm not cool with that. I'm not down with that. I want to do what I want to do with my time. I'm working now, so it's really important to kind of talk about that stuff. The biggest reason why I say don't just automatically jump back into moving back home is because I realized that when I was living at home, I actually wasn't really budgeting. In my head, I kept on justifying the fact that I was saving so much money by living at home. And so when I would buy things that I wanted or go out and do things, get electronics or new clothes or new shoes, or just go out and be social, get drinks and stuff, I was telling myself like, it's okay that I'm spending all this extra money because this is money that I would be spending anyway if I was paying rent. But that whole way of thinking is wrong. It's messed up, because the whole point of moving back home with your parents was to save a chunk of money, and instead of saving it, you're spending it anyway. So you're literally doing exactly what you would have done if you were to pay more rent. And so you can't actually say you're saving money, because you're not. So that's why it's really important to kind of shift your mindset when it comes to what actually saving money means. Saving money doesn't mean spending it on one thing instead of another. It actually means not spending money at all, like saving it. So it's really important to know yourself and kind of think about your situation. Are you going to be the kind of person who's going to go back home, live with mom and dad, and then fall into bad spending habits because you're justifying the fact that you don't have high rent? And that's, that really is not going to help you in the long term. So be very careful and just think twice before moving back in at home with mom and dad. I didn't really experience this because I'm from New York City, and a lot of people in the city actually don't drive if they're born and raised in the city, unless you live like in the outer boroughs, or if you like from Long Island or whatever, or like some parts of Queens. But for me, I was raised, you just get on the bus, you get on the train, you get your Metro card, swipe, and you go where you need to go. And even to this day, I use the subway like all the time, and I don't actually have a car. And it's actually been able to save me a lot of money because I didn't have to buy a car. But the big thing that I know is that when I was, a senior in college, all of my friends who did have cars, for the most part, they had like clunky old cars in college, like, big old, old cars. Maybe their parents gave it to them, or maybe they were driving their brother's old car, or whatever the case is. But people in college didn't necessarily have like a brand new fabulous car. And so you kind of get tired of driving around that old car, and it's not, it doesn't look cool, it doesn't feel cool, and so you're thinking constantly like, oh, when I graduate, I'm making money, I'm gonna get a new car, I can't wait to get a new car, to get a better car. And so the big thing here is, do not just go straight into buying a new car. Really take the time to think about your life long term. You are just fresh out of college, and I know it feels like it's the end of something, like you just finished 4 years of college, like you're done. But actually, you need to change your mindset about that, because you actually are just now starting a new phase of your life. And so that means that you are at the very beginning of something new. And so you can't think about it like, I'm finally done with school, like I'm gonna get what I deserve. You actually have to think, okay, I'm starting a new chapter, and I want to start strong. So I don't want to, end up putting myself in a situation where I can't get new opportunities for myself because of decisions that I made when I was fresh out of college. So the big example that I'll put here is, yesterday I was talking to this woman, and she's like in her mid to late 30s, and she was saying that when she first graduated college, the first thing that she wanted was a new car, because she was tired of the car situation, like I talked about. And so she went ahead, instead of getting a car that's like 1 to 3 years old, or just like a used car for like cheaper, and taking the time to really research it. It might look new, but it doesn't have to actually cost the price of a brand new car. She didn't do that. She actually took, a loan out. She financed the car. She took the auto loan. She started to make her payments, and it took her like 7 to 8 years to finally pay off that car. And because she had that auto loan, she did not qualify for a mortgage when she was in her 30s. You do need a car, but you don't need a fancy new car. You just want a fancy new car. So it's really important to separate those two. Start saving right now. I know that it must be hard to adjust to having all of these expenses and not necessarily having a lot of money coming in. I know, like from experience, I know that that's hard. But right now, the biggest thing is that you have to start building the right habits. And when you get used to not putting money aside from your paycheck, and you get used to spending a certain amount or living off a certain amount, it's going to be much harder later to buck down and start cutting back, because you've already gotten used to a certain amount of money that you're using. So it's really important that you start saving right now. 1 out of 3 young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 has $0 saved in the bank. That is really scary. That means if you are hanging out with your friends, there's 3 of you, 1 of you right there doesn't have anything saved up in case of an emergency. Take 10 cents out of every dollar and save it. And I know it sounds crazy, because like, what is 10 cents gonna do? But there's power in numbers. So every dollar you put 10 cents aside, every $100, that's 10 out of every $100. So over time, that habit becomes instilled in you, and you actually do start to develop the mindset that it's important to do that. And if it's really hard for you to find the discipline and the mind and the mental state to really prioritize doing that, then you have to find a way to automate it. So you have to find a way to automatically save, even if it's just 10%. I would say 10% is a little bit low, especially if you have a lot of goals that you want to use money for in the future, like getting a car or traveling or something like that. Then you're gonna want to save a little bit more than 10%. But if you have a lot of student loan debt, if you have a lot of credit card debt, and you're trying to pay everything down, then you might just do 10. But it's really important that you actually do take a little piece of every single dollar that you earn and save it. This next one is not to just take a job because it's paying you higher than another job. It is really important for you to think about the long-term plan for your career that you have. If you're not sure at all what you want to do, and you already know and admit to yourself that you're just going to take any job because you're going to try to figure it out as you go, then this one might not be as important for you, because you're still trying to figure it out. But if you have a very clear plan of what your long-term career is going to be like, and you know what you want to build up to, then it is really important that you start your career off strong. You might need to accept an entry-level position that doesn't pay a ton of money, even if you got another job offer in a different field that pays you more money. For me, this one is especially relevant because when I was graduating college, I kind of knew that I was passionate about social causes and education, but I was changing, what I thought I wanted to do. And so I decided to go into teaching. But I knew that it was going to be a short-term commitment. Teaching jobs, depending on where you are in the United States, there are some regions in the US that can pay really, really high to teachers. And so it's really tempting when when I was done teaching, it's really tempting to find a job that pays a lot of money in teaching and keep teaching. But if it's not your passion and you're so excited every day when you get up to do it, it's going to be harder as the years go on for you to continue to be really good at that job. So I decided that it wasn't right to stay. But I will tell you, it was very tempting when people would tell me, hey, we have this offer for you. We think it would be really great. And then I'll see the numbers and be like, oh my God, that's such a good salary. I want to do that. But you can't just do it for the money. So really think about what it is that you want to do, and maybe think about, does it make sense for me to plan on my career for the long term, start, entry level, build my way up and work my way up financially, that might pay off in the long run? Or it doesn't make sense for you to just accept the job and have the mindset like that this is not going to be a stepping stone to build something. Maybe you can just save a ton of money in the next year or two and then go on to find what it is that you love. Get people around you who are going where you want to go, or who are already at the place where you want to be. And this is so important because it's not necessarily like a specific thing that you need to do, like go and make a budget, or like don't get a new car. Like this one is actually something that you need to be practicing in your life in a lot of different ways. For me, I wish that somebody had told me this as soon as I had graduated college, because I had a small group of people around me every day that I really loved and trusted and that were doing smart things. But at the same time, I wasn't really pushing myself beyond that to think about, okay, who exactly is it that I want to be? What do I want to be? What do I want my life to be like in 1 year, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? If I would have thought about that, then I would have known exactly the type of people that I needed to be looking for to hang out with and mentor me, and also just like online presence. I did not necessarily have the opportunity to go meet people and chat over coffee, and I didn't have a huge network just yet right out of college, but I was able to look up a ton of people online, people that taught me the value of hustle, and really taught me about finances and all this different information that is available online. But I would never have really learned that if I was just relying on my core group of friends, because they were at the same place that I was. We were all just trying to get out of debt, and we were all just trying to improve our credit score and learn about what was going on in that point in our lives. But I never really thought, okay, let me look ahead to find somebody who is at the place where I want to be. Let me look at somebody who is already paid off all their loans and find out how they did it. Let me look at somebody who is already credit card debt free and talk to them about that journey and how they got there. What was hard about it, what was easy about it, and really learning from people who have come before you, or even people that might necessarily be not necessarily be coming before you. They might be around your age, but you notice that for some reason they're put together and they have it figured out. Maybe there's something that they know or something that they're doing that you don't know or that you're not doing yet. And so as soon as you start talking about it, that's when you get the resources and the help that you need. So it's really, really, really important that you get yourself around people. If it's not real people physically in your life, online people, mentors, coaches, watch TED Talks, listen to podcasts, go on YouTube and watch different videos of people doing Google Talks, whatever, right? Find the people who are super smart and hardworking and have figured this stuff out, and learn from them. Those are my top tips. I know that they kind of can seem like rules, but again, I want to emphasize that these are not rules. These are just things to consider and think about when you're coming out of college and about to establish your new chapter of your life. It's a very scary time, but it's also such an exciting time. And it's a time where you can start to make changes in your life, and honestly, big changes to become the person that you really want to be every day when you wake up, rather than kind of making a ton of mistakes and learning the way that I learned, which was through bad experiences, and then starting later in the game. It's really nice if you can get a head start and start doing all of these things earlier in your 20s, so you could benefit from more time doing things the right way and saving more money that way. So I hope this was helpful. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet. If you have comments or questions, put them below, and you can always write to me at MissBeHelpful@gmail.com. Till next time, peace.